While the world scrolls, we build. While others talk, we turn wrenches, wire walls, and shape futures.
Trade isn't just what we do, it's who we are.
Welcome to Beyond the Trade, where we go deeper than the toolbox, beyond the classroom, into the real stories, skills, and sparks that make the trades thrive.
Brought to you by NESC Technical Institute, where skill meets purpose.
Thank you for joining us today, Haydn. How are you?
Thank you for having me, Samara. I'm good. How are you doing?
I am fine. So let me just jump right into it.
Yeah.
Very briefly, tell us a little about yourself. What makes Haydn Haydn?
Well, I was born in South Trinidad, grew up in South Trinidad, so that has some influence on my personality, I assume. So Port of Spain automatically is another country for me, right? I'm the middle child. I have an older sister, a younger brother. So, the middle child tend to get a little neglected sometimes, so probably have some trauma to deal with there. I was always interested in like engineering stuff and art stuff, and I think my job kind of comprise of a little bit of both. So, that's almost me in a nutshell.
Well, I am also a Southie, and I don't like Port of Spain.
Too much buildings.
Too much traffic.
Yeah.
So I read that you were a wireline field specialist.
Yeah.
So for the people out there that not too familiar, you could give us a little explanation.
Yeah. So whenever somebody asks what I used to do in the field and I say wireline, so they would think running high tension wires for electricity. So I get that often. But wireline is a way to convey tools into oil and gas well. So essentially it's a drum with wire wrapped around the drum. The drum is a braided wire, so like it helix, strands that helix around each other. But inside the wire, there's an electrical conductor. And so the wire is connected to computers and panels, and then the other end will be connected to tools. And we use the drum to convey it into the well, and we'll use it to acquire real-time information. So in a formation where you have hydrocarbons, it have radioactivity, it have porosity and permeability. And so the tools would take these readings. And a real fun part about the job is I used to get to use radiation sources and explosives. So for example, to be able to actually get the hydrocarbons, you need to shoot explosives. And they would make holes in the casing and cement into the formation. And so because of the natural pressures in the formation, it would come to surface. So on the wireline, we would run explosives.
Oh, that's very technical and cool.
Fun, yeah.
And you did this on a rig in the sea?
Yeah.
Out at sea?
On land rigs and out at sea on offshore rigs, yes.
So what was that experience for you?
Offshore?
Offshore, being offshore.
It was intimidating from the beginning because the first time I went offshore, I was 19 years. And I'm small right now, but I was much smaller, shorter. And so it was really intimidating because you have massive equipment. And so when I got there the first time I went offshore, I was a little scared because the equipment big, the danger is high. But the team that I went with, they basically showed me the ropes. So I would say after a couple hitches, so a hitch is how long you spend offshore, like a 2 weeks or a month. I would say after my second hitch, I get comfortable with the environment, I learning the work, and so it became more tolerable after. And so, that's how I dealt with it.
So what was some of the ways you overcame those challenges? Was it the people around you help you?
Yeah. I would say it's a combination of the people around me plus research that I did and falling in love with the job as well. Yeah.
And you mentioned the first time you went on a rig, you were 19.
Yeah.
So what started that interest in this field? What sparked that wanting to be in this oil and gas industry?
Well, I don't know how this works, but have some children from small, they know what they want to do. And they pursue that. I was never that type of person. So actually, initially, I didn't know that I wanted to be in the oil and gas industry. So at CSEC level, I pursued business. And so after that, I went to do A-levels. I started business in A-levels as well. But while I was in A-levels, my father, he was the sole breadwinner in the house and he passed away. And so I had to start working. And this might allude to my age, but back then you had to go through the classifieds in the newspaper, you remember that? And so you had to apply for jobs on the classifieds. So there was this ad, and it was for an operator for the oil and gas industry. It had no company name. I just had an email address and a phone number or something. So I sent a resume there, and 1 year passed, and then I got a phone call from a company, a service company in oil and gas, saying that they have my resume, and obviously I wasn't qualified for the job I applied for. So they said that they just wanted somebody to come and to drive forklift and throw away pallets and maintain the warehouses. So I went to that job, and a couple of months into the job now, I think I was a good worker. And some guys who work offshore in certain departments, they asked me to come into the department, and that's when I started working offshore. And that's, I think, when I got offshore and I started working, that's when it really clicked for me that this is what I wanted to do.
This may be selling out my age too, but I also was going through the classified, applying to jobs that had no name, no company name.
I think it's an unsafe thing to do.
It is very unsafe now. I do not recommend it. So how did you end up in teaching?
Mm-hmm. Well, when I was in wireline, as I moved up in the ranks, I think people that came in the job after me, obviously I would know the gaps that they have and stuff that they need to learn. So inadvertently, I started teaching people below me. And based on what they said, I was doing a good job. So it kind of fostered the liking for me to teach. And I think that motivated me a little bit to come into this field to teach, while still doing similar things that I would have done in the oil and gas industry.
And seeing the recent tragedies that going down now, and having your own experience on the rig, how would you impart the importance of safety on your students? Yeah.
So we say safety is number one. That's like a slogan in the oil and gas industry, in the industry in general. But because of my field experience, I think I really try to drive it home to the students. And we have students coming from school, straight from secondary school, or even who have been in secondary school and didn't work, and so they might not have an appreciation. On the campus, well, we have an actual drone rig, so it's not a simulation, it's an actual land rig, and so the risks might not be the same, but they're similar. And so my way to do it is to show students videos of accidents. And now that might seem a little dark, but it would really open their eyes up to how much damage this equipment could do to the human body. And so I use examples from my own experience, also videos that are online about how dangerous the field could be. And the first course that we teach is a safety course, so we tie those two things together.
Being on the rigs, I know sometimes people talk about how lonely and isolating it could feel. How do you network in this field? How do you meet new people?
So one way to do it is social media. So LinkedIn, a lot of companies and people on LinkedIn. And one way to overcome the fright is don't be afraid to get a no. So messaging professional people on LinkedIn without thinking about how harsh the response might be, or they might not respond, which might hurt a little more, but you need to reach out to people on LinkedIn. I use events in the oil and gas industry, like the Energy Conference or SP, Society of Petroleum Engineers. They have a lot of events that you could go to and do face-to-face networking. Also, while on the rig, you could talk to people who might be in other fields. And the oil and gas industry in Trinidad is small. And so you might talk to one person that know 10 people that know the same people that you know. And so that's a good way to do networking,
Do you think you are keeping up well with networking?
I would like to think so, yeah.
In a world that is moving towards more renewable energy, do you think there's still place for the traditional oil and gas?
I don't know if I will ruffle some feathers here, but this is my opinion. While it's good to incorporate the renewable energy, I think countries that's still growing, like Trinidad and Tobago and some other countries, we still have infrastructure that's dependent on oil and gas. And so while we bring in the renewable energy, we're still highly reliant on the hydrocarbon energy as well. And as it stands, hydrocarbon energy is still cheaper than renewable energy. And so it's not like getting rid of one for the other. We had to incorporate those two things together. And I think for the next 30 years or so, we still need hydrocarbon energy at large. Yeah.
And during your career, what was some of the highlights you would have experienced?
Yeah. So as I stated before, I started as a helper, basically sweeping the warehouse, doing our stuff, and I worked my way up in wireline. Started as an operator, servicing tools, and I worked my way up. I studied part-time, and so I became a field specialist, which is essentially a field engineer. And so I got to the point where my competence was enough to go offshore and be the lead of a crew and execute a job. And so for me, looking at where I started and where I ended up, to me, I felt very accomplished, and that was a big highlight.
And how did you feel the first time you're supposed to lead a crew?
Nervous. Yeah, and so you have all these thoughts. You ever heard about imposter syndrome?
Yes, I have that.
And so you have these things playing in your head. Am I going to do a good job? Do I deserve to be doing this? And then you're thinking about the job itself, because so many things could go wrong. You're dealing with explosives and radiation. And so I was very, very nervous. And I kind of powered through it. And at the end, I realized that, well, I did a decent enough job. And so I see room for improvement. But all in all, I think I did the best I could have at the time. Yeah.
And do you see similarities between leading a team of big men compared to students?
In a lot of ways, it's easier to lead big men because they have a little more maturity. You can speak to them a little more harshly as well. And so it was easier. And it were men that work in the oil field for a certain amount of time. And so they might actually see things I don't see. And so it was helpful to have other mature men around in the fields. In the classroom, though, or on the rig, in NESC's rig, the students, they don't have any experience, and so you have to basically hold their hands and walk. And so it's 40 students that you hold in your hands and walking and showing them things that they've seen for the first time. And then they have their own personalities that you have to kind of overcome and groom into what I think it should be to be able to work in the fields. Yeah.
What advice would you give to young people wanting to come into this field, and what advice do you give your own students?
Yeah. I would say, no matter how much you learn, and this might sound cliche, no matter how much you learn and no matter how much you earn, remain humble, right? Because I've seen a lot of times where, well, the oil and gas industry is a high income industry, but what tends to happen is that people move up and then their personalities change and then they become tyrannical leaders, and so I would like people to remain humble no matter what level they get to.
Okay, that is good advice. So one last question. What is your hype song?
My hype song?
What song you listen to when you're feeling down and you're just looking for a pick-me-up?
So I am a millennial, but I think I was supposed to be like
a boomer?
Yeah, so I listen to real old music. So there's a band named Journey. So for the young ones, there's a really, really good band named Journey, and they have this song called Don't Stop Believing. So I will listen to that song. I'll go to the gym. I would lift all the weights in the gym. I will run I will run like faster than Bolt. Yeah, so to me, that is my hype song.
That is my go-to karaoke song.
Oh,
so I know it well.
Nice. That's a good song.
Thank you so much, Haydn, for being here and chatting with us.
It was a pleasure. Thank you.